everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Tom and Ben News. Hope you guys are having a wonderful Saturday and ready to hear what's been happening this past week.
A bunch of things have happened in the past few days, so let's look at what top stories we got in tonight's episode.
Typhoon Bavi strikes eastern China, bringing destructive winds and torrential rain and forcing more than 1 million people to evacuate as authorities respond to the powerful storm.
Deadly wildfires tear through southern Spain, forcing evacuations and sending firefighters into a dangerous battle to bring the fast-moving flames under control.
A new report highlights the growing impact of major dust storms following extreme events that affected parts of China and the U.S.-Mexico border region and raised concerns over air quality and public health.
And concerns are growing among conservationists following changes to the protections for threatened species, reigniting debate over the future of vulnerable wildlife and the laws designed to protect them.
And those are the top stories coming up in today's show. Hope you got your snacks ready, and let's move on into today's broadcast.
And now, this is Tom and Ben News, hosted by Tom and Ben.
Today is a horrible cyclone that has struck eastern China. On July 11th, a cyclone named Typhoon Bavi made a massive landfall, bringing destructive winds, torrential rain, and widespread flooding to several provinces.
Authorities carried out one of the country's largest precautionary evacuations, with millions of residents moved to safety before the storm arrived, while emergency crews continue responding to flooding and storm damage. Let's take a closer look at this.
China is continuing recovery efforts after Typhoon Bavi, one of the strongest storms to strike the country's eastern coastline this year. The storm developed over the western Pacific Ocean before rapidly strengthening into a super typhoon as it approached East Asia. After passing near Japan's southwestern islands and brushing northern Taiwan, Bavi eventually made landfall along the coast of Zhejiang province on the evening of July 11th. With maximum sustained winds of around 144 kilometers per hour. Knowing the storm posed a significant threat, Chinese authorities launched an extensive emergency response before landfall. Across eastern China, more than 2 million people were evacuated from vulnerable coastal and low-lying areas, including over 1.7 million residents in Zhejiang province alone. Schools were closed, construction projects were suspended, public transport services were disrupted, and thousands of fishing vessels were ordered back to port to avoid dangerous seas. As Bavi moved inland, it brought torrential rainfall and damaging winds and widespread flooding. Roads became submerged, rivers overflowed, trees were uprooted, and power outages were reported in several communities. Heavy rainfall also raised concerns about flash flooding and landslides, particularly in mountainous areas where saturated ground increased the risk of further damage. Fortunately, thanks in large part to the extensive preparations made before the storm arrived, there were no immediate reports of fatalities in mainland China when Bavi first made landfall. Officials say the large-scale evacuations helped reduce the risk to human life, even as communities faced significant disruption. However, the storm's impact was felt well beyond China. Before reaching the mainland, Bavi passed close to Taiwan, where authorities evacuated thousands of residents from mountainous regions, canceled hundreds of flights, and temporarily closed schools and government offices. Strong winds caused injuries and damaged infrastructure, although Taiwan avoided the worst of the storm's core. Meteorologists say Bavi remained unusually large even after landfall, allowing it to continue producing heavy rainfall as it tracked northward into inland provinces. The combination of slow movement and abundant tropical moisture increased the risk of prolonged flooding across parts of eastern and northeastern China. China regularly experiences powerful typhoons during the summer months, but experts say storms can vary greatly in strength and impact depending on ocean temperatures, atmospheric conditions, and where they make landfall. Emergency crews continue working to clear roads, restore electricity, assess damaged infrastructure, and assist residents returning to their homes. For now, authorities are continuing to monitor river levels and weather conditions as recovery efforts remain underway.
It's remarkable to see the scale of preparation that went into protecting so many people before the storm arrived.
Absolutely. Moving millions of people isn't easy, but stories like this shows just how important early warnings and emergency planning can be.
Now our next top story takes us to southern Spain, where one of the country's deadliest wildfires in decades has left communities devastated.
The disaster has claimed a lot of lives, destroying thousands of hectares of land and forcing hundreds of people to flee their homes as firefighters battle difficult conditions. Take a look.
Southern Spain is recovering after a devastating wildfire swept through Almeria province in the autonomous region of Andalusia, becoming the country's deadliest wildfire in more than 40 years. The fire broke out on July 9th near the municipality of Los Gallardos during a period of extreme summer heat, low humidity, and strong winds. Those conditions allowed the flames to spread rapidly through dry vegetation and rugged terrain, making it difficult for emergency crews to contain the blaze. The wildfire ultimately burned around 7,000 hectares of land before firefighters were able to stabilize the situation. Thick smoke covered nearby communities, roads were closed, and approximately 1,500 residents were evacuated as a precaution while emergency services worked to protect homes and save lives. Tragically, 13 people died in the disaster. Authorities say many of the victims became trapped while attempting to escape the fast-moving flames. The victims included people from several different countries, highlighting the international nature of the local community in this part of the southern Spain. Because of the severity of the fire, forensic teams used DNA analysis to help identify some of the victims. Hundreds of firefighters, supported by helicopters, water-bombing aircraft, and military emergency units, spent days battling the blaze. Difficult terrain, shifting winds, and intense heat made firefighting operations especially dangerous. Eventually, cooler conditions and sustained firefighting efforts allowed authorities to bring the fire under control before residents were permitted to return home. Scientists say southern Europe has experienced increasingly challenging wildfire seasons in recent years. Hotter temperatures, prolonged dry weather, and abundant dry vegetation can all contribute to fires spreading more quickly once they begin. While many factors influence individual wildfires, experts say these conditions increase the overall risk during the Mediterranean summer. Spanish authorities have thanked firefighters, emergency responders, and volunteers for their efforts throughout the emergency, while investigations continue into exactly how the fire started. For many residents, however, the focus now turns to rebuilding homes, supporting affected families, and recovering from one of the country's most tragic wildfire disasters in recent history.
Our thoughts are with everyone affected, especially the families who lost loved ones and the emergency crews who worked tirelessly to protect their communities.
And as always, these events are a reminder of how important it is to follow emergency warnings and evacuation advice whenever they're issued. Alright, now it's time for one of those stories that makes you wonder, who came up with this?
You know what? I ask myself that at least once every podcast. But here's today's weird one. A museum in Rotterdam has covered part of its floor with more than 360 kilograms of smooth peanut butter, enough to make around 15,000 peanut butter sandwiches.
Yep, and it was lots and lots of peanut butter. The unusual artwork was created as a tribute to the late Dutch conceptual artist Wim T. Schippers, who first created the famous peanut butter floor back in 1969.
It took museum workers several days to carefully spread 40 buckets of smooth peanut butter over a 25 square meter hexagon floor, using drywall trowels to make the surface as smooth as possible.
And to make this more crazy, visitors are even warned at the entrance that anyone with peanut allergies may want to avoid entering the gallery, and museum staff simply tell people to follow the smell to find the exhibit.
Well, dang, that has to be the easiest museum to navigate. Just follow the smell and keep walking until you're hungry.
Yeah, and don't even think about bringing bread, or jam, or a spoon. Actually, you know what? Just don't touch anything.
The museum says the artwork is meant to challenge people's ideas about what art can be, and judging by the reactions online, it certainly got people talking. Well, I suppose it's better than stepping in wet paint, although stepping in peanut butter probably isn't much better.
True. Oh, that's hilarious. That has got to be one of the weirdest stories we've ever covered. Okay. Alright, well, now we're going to move on to Ginger giving you the weather forecast. Ginger, you may do the honors. Thank you, and hello everyone. Hope you're having a fantastic day. And what's a better day to check out the latest weather forecast that we got for this week? So without wasting any more time, let's see what the skies have in store over the next several days. Sydney is looking mixed over the next several days. Today, conditions have been mostly clear with a high of around 23 degrees, but tomorrow brings a big change, with an 85% chance of rain and a cooler high of around 19. Looking through the rest of the week, Monday should bring some sunshine before showers return Tuesday through Thursday. Temperatures will stay fairly mild, with daytime highs generally between 18 and 21 degrees before Friday turns partly cloudy with a high around 18. So Sydney, enjoy the dry weather when you can, because the umbrella is definitely going to get some use this week. Melbourne is looking cooler with a mixture of sunshine and rain ahead. Today has been mostly cloudy with a high around 16 degrees, while tomorrow should be a much nicer day with some sunshine and temperatures reaching around 18. After that, though, wetter weather returns. Showers are expected through much of Monday to Wednesday, including a very high chance of rain on Tuesday. Conditions improve somewhat on Thursday before another chance of showers on Friday. Daytime temperatures will generally stay between 14 and 18 degrees, with overnight lows dropping as low as 7. So Melbourne, a little bit of everything this week, but keep that raincoat nearby. Brisbane is also heading into a wet stretch. Today has been relatively quiet, with temperatures reaching around 20 degrees, but tomorrow brings a 70% chance of rain and a warmer high around 23. Showers remain likely through much of the working week, with rain chances particularly high on Tuesday and Wednesday. Despite the wet weather, it will stay fairly mild to warm, with highs generally sitting between 23 and 24 degrees and overnight lows mostly in the teens. So Brisbane, warm but wet. It looks like the umbrella will be getting plenty of work there too. Heading across to the United States now, New York has a mixture of rain and sunshine coming up. Today has been cloudy with temperatures reaching around 25 degrees, while tomorrow looks wetter and warmer, with a 75% chance of rain and a high around 28. Things improve considerably after that, with Monday and Tuesday looking sunny and Wednesday partly cloudy. Rain chances return Thursday and Friday, while daytime temperatures through the week generally stay in the mid to upper 20s. So New York, a wet start, a beautiful looking middle of the week, and then possibly another round of showers toward Friday. And now to Los Angeles, where things are about to get very hot. Today is already hot and clear, reaching around 34 degrees, and tomorrow will be even warmer at around 35. The heat continues building through the week, with plenty of sunshine and temperatures climbing into the mid to upper 30s. Wednesday could reach around 37 degrees, with Friday potentially hitting 38. Overnight temperatures will also remain very warm, generally staying above 20 degrees. So Los Angeles, plenty of sunshine, but this is definitely a week to stay hydrated. Find some shade and try to keep cool. And finally, in Chicago, today has been mostly clear with temperatures reaching around 27 degrees, and tomorrow looks sunny and slightly cooler at around 25. Monday should stay sunny, followed by partly cloudy conditions Tuesday. From Wednesday onward, however, showers begin creeping back into the forecast, with rain chances continuing through Thursday and Friday. Temperatures remain fairly comfortable for most of the week, with highs generally between 25 and 27 degrees. So Chicago, enjoy that sunshine over the next few days before the weather starts moving back in. And that's the weather forecast we have for this week. Stay safe, and we will be back with more weather forecasts next time. This is Ginger signing out, and now back to you. Thanks, Ginger, and we will definitely see you next time for more forecasts. Alright everybody, we're going to take a short break, but coming up next is a new report that reveals record-breaking dust storm activity and our final top story, which will be about the controversial changes to wildlife protections.
And Tyler joins us with the latest sports news and highlights, and Paul has everything happening in the world of entertainment and pop culture. We will be right back after this commercial break.
Welcome back, everyone. Our next top story will focus on a growing environmental concern that affected millions of people around the world last year. A new report from the World Meteorological Organization says parts of China and the United States-Mexico border experienced record-breaking dust storm activity during 2025, raising concerns about public health, transportation, and the environment.
Scientists say while dust storms are a natural part of Earth's climate, changing environmental conditions are making some of these events more severe. Here's more.
A new report released by the World Meteorological Organization, the United Nations agency responsible for weather and climate, is drawn attention to the increasing impact of major sand and dust storms around the world. According to the report, 2025 saw several exceptional regional dust events despite global average dust levels remaining broadly similar to previous years. One of the most significant occurred in April 2025, when powerful winds carried huge amounts of dust from Mongolia into northern China. The event was described as China's worst dust intrusion in more than a decade, measured by its intensity, duration, and the enormous area it affected. Thick dust clouds reduced visibility, disrupted transportation, and caused air quality to deteriorate across several major cities. Another hotspot was the United States-Mexico border region. The city of El Paso, Texas, recorded 50 dust weather days during 2025, more than double its long-term annual average and the highest number recorded since the Dust Bowl era of the 1930s. Some of these storms reduced visibility to dangerous levels, disrupted travel, and sent pollution levels soaring as tiny dust particles filled the air. Dust storms occur when strong winds lift loose soil and sand into the atmosphere, often carrying the particles hundreds or even thousands of kilometers. While this is a natural process, scientists say factors such as prolonged drought, land degradation, poor land management, and desertification can make dust storms more frequent and more intense in some regions. The World Meteorological Organization estimates that around 2 billion tons of dust enter Earth's atmosphere every year, with much of it originating from major desert regions such as the Sahara Desert, the Gobi Desert, and the Arabian Desert. These airborne particles can travel across continents and oceans before eventually settling back to the ground. Health experts say dust storms can pose serious risks, particularly for people with asthma, allergies, or other respiratory conditions. Fine particles in the air can irritate the eyes and lungs, reduce visibility on roads and at airports, and affect agriculture by damaging crops and reducing soil quality. The WMO says improving forecasting systems, restoring degraded land, and strengthening international cooperation will all play an important role in helping communities prepare for future dust storms. Although sand and dust storms have always been part of Earth's natural environment, researchers say understanding why some events are becoming more severe will help countries better protect lives, infrastructure, and public health in the years ahead.
Dang, it's amazing to think that something as simple as dust can travel across entire countries, and even continents.
Indeed, it really puts into perspective how connected our environment is. A storm beginning in one region can end up affecting millions of people, hundreds or even thousands of kilometers away.
Yep, definitely agree on you on that. Alright everybody, we're now going to move on to the world of sports. Here's Tyler giving you the latest sports highlights. Take it away, Tyler. So are we live? Okay, my bad. Alright, let's do this. Well, hello, sports nerds! Hope you guys had a great week. And to make the week even better, let's look at some sports highlights that have happened in the past week. The NFL preseason is officially underway, marking the beginning of the road to a new football season. The annual Hall of Fame game kicked things off by giving fans their first look at rookies, new signings, and returning stars. While the games don't count toward the regular season standings, they're an important opportunity for players to earn their place on the final team rosters before the season officially begins. The Canadian Open is now in full swing, with many of the world's best tennis players competing in both the men's and women's tournaments. The event is one of the biggest lead-up tournaments before the US Open, making every match an important test. Players are looking to build momentum, improve their rankings, and fine-tune their game before the year's final Grand Slam gets underway later this month. And finally, Major League Baseball is entering one of its most exciting stages of the season as teams continue battling for valuable playoff positions. With only a limited number of games remaining, every win and every loss is becoming increasingly important. Clubs across both leagues are fighting to secure a postseason berth, setting up what promises to be an exciting finish to the regular season. And those were the highlights of the week. There are more to come in the coming days, and I'll see you all again next time. Now back to you guys. Thank you for the sports highlights, Tyler, and we will definitely see you next time. Alright everybody, we're now going to move on to our final top story of the day. And now for our final top story tonight focuses on wildlife conservation. The United States has finalized changes to its Endangered Species Act, a landmark environmental law that has protected threatened and endangered wildlife for more than 50 years.
Supporters say the changes will reduce unnecessary regulations and make the law easier to apply, while critics warn they could make it harder to protect vulnerable species and the habitats they depend on. Here's the full story.
A major change to the United States Endangered Species Act, often referred to as the ESA, is prompting debate among scientists, conservation groups, industry representatives, and government officials. The Endangered Species Act, signed into law in 1973, is one of America's most important wildlife conservation laws. It was created to prevent plants and animals from becoming extinct and has played a significant role in helping species such as the bald eagle, American alligator, and California condor recover from dangerously low populations. This month, the US government finalized a rule that changes how one part of the law is interpreted. For decades, the act treated significant destruction or degradation of an endangered species' habitat as a form of harm, even if an animal was not directly injured or killed. Under the new rule, that interpretation has been removed, meaning habitat changes alone are no longer automatically considered harm under this section of the law. At the same time, another change ends the long-standing practice of automatically giving newly listed threatened species the same broad protections as endangered species. Instead, wildlife agencies will generally develop species-specific protection plans, a process supporters say provides greater flexibility but critics say could take longer to implement. Supporters of the reforms, including officials from the U.S. Department of the Interior, argue the previous rules placed unnecessary burdens on landowners, farmers, energy producers, and infrastructure projects. They say the updated regulations provide greater legal clarity while still allowing conservation efforts to continue through targeted recovery plans. Environmental organizations strongly disagree. Groups such as Earth Justice and other conservation advocates argue that many endangered animals rely on healthy habitats to survive, breed, and find food. They say weakening habitat protections could make it more difficult to recover vulnerable species and have announced legal challenges seeking to overturn the new rules. The debate highlights a long-running question faced by many countries around the world. How can governments balance economic development, private property rights, and infrastructure projects while also protecting wildlife and preserving biodiversity for future generations? That question is now expected to be considered in the courts, where several lawsuits challenging the new regulations have already been filed. Until those cases are resolved, the future of these policy changes remains uncertain.
Wildlife conservation is rarely a simple issue, and stories like this show how many different perspectives can be involved. Whether it's forests, wetlands, or oceans, healthy habitats are an important part of protecting an incredible variety of life on our planet.
It's certainly a story we'll continue following as the legal challenges move through the courts. Okay, everyone, to finish things off, we're going to move on to Paul giving you the latest news in the world of entertainment. Paul, you may do the honors.
Thank you, Tom and Ben, and hello to you amazing people. Today we got quite a bunch of big news in the world of entertainment, so let's take a look at them, shall we? The long-awaited Coyote vs. Acme continues to generate excitement as its theatrical release draws closer later this month. The live-action and animated comedy follows Wile E. Coyote as he takes the Acme Corporation to court over its famously unreliable gadgets. After originally being shelved, the film was rescued for a full theatrical release, making it one of Hollywood's biggest comeback stories of the year. One of television's most beloved comedies is officially back. Ted Lasso has returned with a brand new season, this time following Ted as he takes charge of AFC Richmond's women's football team. Fans are excited to see familiar faces return alongside a fresh new story, making it one of the biggest streaming premieres of the week. Gamers have several new titles to look forward. Among the biggest releases are Beasts of Reincarnation, an action-adventure from the creators at Game Freak, and Big Walk, a cooperative exploration game from the studio behind Untitled Goose Game. Both games are attracting plenty of attention as players dive into the latest adventures across consoles and PC. And finally, music fans have plenty of fresh songs to enjoy. K-pop group Stray Kids have released their new mini-album titled This and That, while British R&B trio Flo and singer-songwriter Ravine Lene have also unveiled new albums. The latest releases are already making waves across streaming platforms and giving listeners plenty of new music to enjoy. And those are the news we have in the world of entertainment. There are more to come, but for now, it will be the end of it today. So I'll see you all again next time. Now back to you, Tom and Ben.
Thank you, Paul, for the news, and we will definitely see you next time. Alright, everybody, that concludes tonight's episode of Tom and Ben News. But do not worry, you'll see us again next time. There will be plenty of more news to come in the coming weeks.
Absolutely. This will never be the end of us, and you'll definitely see us again. Make sure you stay safe, stay informed.
And we will see you all again next time. Good night, everyone!